Hello and welcome to the show, the GCR, Let's Talk GCR and Great Shift with Deborah Peach and Sean Michael. And today we have January 17th, 2016 in the States and January 18th in the other hemisphere, which I seem to be going back and forth to and fro. So we have an awesome show and call today. There's a lot happening on the planet, in the world. And so before we get started, we just want to get the housekeeping up front here. This is being recorded. You know, we're going to open up the Q&A queue, question and answer queue. And when you come on and do a call, when you come on and do a question or whatnot, we just ask that you don't share your last name, just for your own privacy, and that, of course, this is going to go out and be heard by a lot of people. We're actually very excited about that because we're watching the views on YouTube, and they keep increasing. So we know we're at least on the right path and track for this at this point. The other thing, too, is also be aware that we don't know who's on the other end of the call. Well, this is live, and so we're not in a big studio and don't have like a call screener. And so we ask for you to be very conscientious of how you present your question or your share. Understand that we also are in a time frame. We are going to do a 2-hour hard out on this show today, and that we just ask for you to be really conscientious about how you present yourself and be respectful of the time. And that we want to try to get through as many people in the queue as possible. So we've got a lot to talk about. Sean, hi. Oh,
hello.
There you go. There you are.
Yeah, I just get myself off mute. Takes me a sec. All right. Hello, all right, everyone.
Yeah, you want to get started and talk about some of the things that are unfolding here moment by moment. It's been a very exciting couple of days and weeks.
All right. Well, we've seen unprecedented activity over this past week since our last Sunday's call, particularly for those paying attention to global markets, global stock markets. We are seeing a relatively unprecedented sell-off within the markets, basically meaning they're going down. The U.S. market is down well over 10% now just for the last 10 trading days. That does not appear to be something that's going to slow down. You might have a little uptick on one day, but then the next day you're down 400, 500 points again. Not only the U.S. markets, but also the global markets from all across Europe. Every major market in Europe and in Asia as well are in the same downturn. And I believe that one thing all of the talking heads on TV and in the press, the financial press, are agreeing on is this is specifically to do with China, what they're doing. So what are China doing? So let's take several steps into consideration. One, what I call the soft crash that's unfolding before us right now on global stock markets, equities, right? We see unprecedented drops in the price of oil. It seems like every day goes by, it's down another 3 to 5%. We know oil, as of Friday, closed below $30 a barrel. What could be driving this? We've seen the information that trade between Europe and the United States, as well as Asia and the United States, is at an unprecedented low. That means a historic, never before happened low. And that's done by looking up what's called the Dry Baltic Index, and that's a measure of trade goods between countries. And that is at a low that it has never seen since this index began tracking sovereign trade, international trade between countries and hemispheres and regions and things of that nature. We also see unprecedented volatility between the U.S. dollar and the Chinese external renminbi. Now, what does that mean? There's a CNY renminbi and a CNH. CNY is the internal China currency that they use, within the borders of China, and the CNH is the Chinese yuan or the Chinese renminbi. that is used for external trade and commerce between, outside of China. And it also is what's used with their foreign reserve holdings, their FX reserves. That saw spikes going up and down over the last 5 trading days. So something is definitely up between the U.S. dollar and the rate between the dollar and the external Chinese yuan. What could that be? And then we see, as of now, the world's record as of Friday, the total number of foreign central banks selling or dumping U.S. treasuries. So in the first 2 weeks of 2016, the U.S. Treasury had to absorb $47 billion worth of treasuries from foreign central banks, basically selling them back to the United States. And when you read further and research a little bit deeper, although the information isn't completely visible at this time, I think most of the researchers that are following the Treasury sales around the world are agreeing that China is likely behind the bulk of this record $47 billion in the first 2 weeks of treasuries. That means they're selling back, they're calling in the loans to the United States, right? So how do we add all of those together? We've got a record drop in stock markets in the first 2 weeks of 2016, never before happened. So I call that a soft crash. All right, we've got the oil at unprecedented lows. We've got the treasuries being dumped at a record rate never seen before. And we've got this mysterious volatility between the offshore Chinese yuan and the U.S. dollar. All right, so that's fact. Those are all facts. If they seemingly could be separate items, if one is just looking, they could be anecdotal. If one's just reading headlines. But all of us here who are involved in the global currency reset and the greater global financial reset should take note that these items are probably linked, and I would say feel free to connect those 4 dots as meaning something significant in what we are all here for. Finally, we had unprecedented thing happened over this weekend. Iran has now been fully relieved of all sanctions, right, as being deemed compliant with the nuclear energy agency's requirements in their reporting on their nuclear development activities, their atomic development. So Iran is now out, and of course speculation is rampant as to what's going to happen to the Iranian rial. I would expect that it's going to be reinstated, if it not already has been, as part of the sanctions relief. But yes, we'll be able to verify that pretty quickly over the next day or two.
And can we just acknowledge, Sean, everything that you're sharing right now is huge. I just wanted to present how significant these milestones are, and including this whole situation with Iran sanctions being lifted. Yep. And so it's
the specific activity between China and the United States, the stock market's going down is connected with China. The treasuries being dumped record amounts are connected with China. The volatility between the offshore Chinese yuan and the U.S. dollar is connected to China, right? So does it take too much to connect those dots, right?
Right.
So these are huge. I agree. Yep.
And they're really really significant milestones in what many of us have been watching for years now, waiting, watching, being on a roller coaster emotionally, financially, etc. And also the other aspect of this is that presencing the significance of all of these shifts and how much all of this is part of the transition that is a necessary component to this entire global currency reset to take place.
Yep. I would agree with that. So there's also another key fact that, as I reported last Sunday, here we are 7 days later, and I can still say that almost. Okay, last week I said absolutely I had no knowledge of any group or individuals on or platforms either on the bond or currency side of this GCR have been funded in spendable money. There have been people that have exchanged or groups that have exchanged, but they have not been exchanged for spendable money. They've been exchanged for credits or receipts or deposits, but that's not spendable, right? So this week,
right.
I believe that there has been significant movement, particularly on the bond side, and I'm not giving up any secrets. I believe that was mentioned on the Landa call. It was mentioned in several ZAP calls. It was mentioned even on some other popular GCR conference calls over this week that there has been significant activity in the bond area. And we know the bonds are connected to the humanitarian project, and they are joined at the hip with the currency exchanges at the mid-level and the broader lower level, which would be G64 and that type of stuff.
Right.
So there is significant movement. I'm not going to say that I know for sure that there's been spendable funds exchanged. So I'm going to err on the side of cautiousness or caution and say that likely they haven't been exchanged for spendable, but clearly some activity is going on the bond side, and now clearly there is some activity surfacing over today, last night, within the currency side of things. So I'm even going to speculate, and this is my opinion in connecting dots, I'm going to speculate that we're going to learn pretty soon that the reason no group or platform has been able to get access to spendable funds is because I believe that the Iranian sanction issue was a key component of this. And why do I say that? Because we all know from past reports, and we've talked about this, that the architects of the plan of the global financial reset and the global currency reset, the master architects who put this together have been way cautious with making sure everything is completely legal, everything is transparent in terms of how they're executing this, and the process and the due process and the legality of international law and treaty in making this switch over of the currencies and the changing within the banking regulatory commissions and those types of steps. So if I believe Iran, of course, is part of the GCR, I think it's a significant part, whether it's one of the first currencies to RV or not. I'm not going to speculate on that because nobody knows. But Iran is a significant currency. It is, as of right now, it still is the weakest currency on the planet. It's like 32,000 to 1, I believe, right? Give or take. And to $1, 32,000 real to $1. If Iran is a key part of the RV of currencies, obviously you can't execute a fundable GCR, an exchange process, while that country, key country, was still under legal, lawful sanctions under the United Nations security and other nations as well. But now that that's gone, I believe we could be free to see the final step of this funding be released, including the TRN/USN, the new gold-backed U.S. dollar. I think
right.
Iran was probably a key part of that. I could be wrong, but I'm just connecting those dots and putting that out there because it's amazing how much stuff lit up across the information, dinar land type of information circuits regarding things like the fundings and certain group activities and the bond activities almost within hours of Iran being released from its sanctions out of Vienna yesterday, right? So,
it's kind of been like a bing, 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 bing with the different things that are happening right now.
Yep, and the dollar is amazingly strong right now. I believe the dollar has been pumped up to its unbelievably high level. If you look at the U.S. dollar index, it's still sitting at 98 or 99. I didn't look at it today, but which is in record territory. Why would the U.S. dollar be so strong if stock markets are tanking and this type of thing? I believe the U.S. dollar has been raised in value under the fiat system right now so that when
artificially.
artificially. Well, that's what you can do in the fiat system. I would say just about everything is artificial in the fiat system, right? But I believe a key part of the dollar being so strong right now, because actually no one really understands why. I mean, the talking heads can't figure out why the dollar is so strong. They have their theories, but no one's willing to back that up, right? It's just a theory. I believe it's set that strong so that when the gold-backed dollar is unveiled or injected into the banking and financial system, obviously the fiat dollar is going to evaporate and start to collapse, but it's going to be caught like a net by the gold-backed dollar, the USN, if you want to call it that. And I believe that the dollar has been put up that high so that when it does come down 5 or 8%, it's basically going to put the dollar on par with where it was against other major global currencies about a year ago. So if today's dollar rate fell 5 to 8% from 98, the index down, you will see that the dollar is going to be where it was about a year ago, right? Maybe a little bit longer than that, but no big deal because we were there a year ago. And did anything really change when we went from 92 or 88 on the dollar index up to 98, 99? No, it just means people traveling abroad with dollars can buy more stuff, right? Or, it's cheaper to travel outside of the U.S. So I think that's been done to soften the blow, right?
Right. Or like me, when I transfer my, Scott and I, Aussie dollars to U.S. dollars, it's horrible.
Yep. Oh, support. All of you up in Canada, I know you're hurting with the Canadian dollar versus the U.S. dollar. It's at $1.45 Canadian, I believe, to $1 U.S. dollar. I mean, that's just incredible. And I was even reading reports that the cost of goods in Canada, because a lot of it comes from the U.S. and Europe and Asia, I mean, is just skyrocketing, right? I mean, because of the weakness, the strength of the dollar, actually. So that's the case everywhere. So I think we're going to see a cushioned, a soft crash in the market, which we're right in. It's happening right now. It's continuing to happen for this past week. And when the fiat U.S. dollar transitions to the gold-backed dollar, which will make it more fair and even against other currencies. Well, it makes all currencies fair and even because, trust me, people, the U.S. are not the only country that manipulates their currency to gain an advantage in international markets. Every country does that, right? So all of this will happen, and I don't believe anyone that's espousing this dollar crash where you're going to wake up one day and your dollar is worth almost nothing. I can't even begin to wrap my head around how that's even something worth its weight in words, right? Because if the U.S. collapses, everything collapses, right? So we're not the bad guys, all right? So
well, the other thing too, Sean, is that if we can also now get into the energetics of this and with how this is part of the, let's say, the spiritual transition, the evolution aspect of what's going on here, is that it's really creating it's really giving people an opportunity to pause and take a look at everything that is going on, especially with the markets, and even people that aren't aware of the global currency reset, right?
Correct.
And here's one of the things that I was told by my guides some time ago is that this whole situation, okay, so if we just think about the magnitude of what we're in the know of, and I just also want to say and remind you guys that are listening to this that you are at a very high level of in-the-know people on the planet. You're like the new 1%ers. And because you have been tracking this GCR, or if you are aware of what's going on now at this time, consider yourself at a very high level of information and value of understanding of what's going on the planet. And one of the things that Sean and I were talking about a little bit earlier today is that there seems to be a lot of fear coming up with people because things are being shaken up. And the thing that we want to definitely presence with all of this is that in order for this shift to happen, in order for this transition, we're in the transition. In order for this reset to happen, shit has to hit the fan. I mean, quite honestly, this is the kind of stuff that has to happen in order for this transition to occur. So the important thing is for you, as you are listening to this information, as you are involved in this role, I'm going to say, what has been a roller coaster, it's so important for each of you to really get grounded and stay grounded in the knowingness that this is part of what has to happen.
Absolutely.
So, okay, do you want to add to that?
No, I understand because I've gotten a lot of questions and private messages and emails this past week because of the market activity, because a lot of the talking heads on TV and then in the business world are, they're saying doom and gloom and look at what's going to happen, right? You're exactly right, Deb. This stuff is what has to happen to affect a massive change that has never been seen before in the modern world.
Probably the history of humanity.
Going
right?
back to Babylon. Yeah, let's just say the last 6,000 years or so, right? Not the civilizations before that, but just our current civilization, right? Yeah. Since money was created in Babylon and all of that, right? So I agree. This is what's got to happen. It does not mean that all of a sudden we're going to wake up and there's going to be no money in our bank accounts. It does not mean that we're going to wake up and the U.S. dollar has collapsed like 50 to 80%, and the U.S. economy is now a third world status. All right, those are not what this is about. But yet these components have to be shaken up in order for, well, not only for the process to happen, but it also has to create plausibility for the 99% that have no idea what's going on. There's got to be, oh, look, we've been able to fix this problem, right, this big problem, and, rather than it just all happening at once and everyone goes, what happened, right? So I agree. Fear is not what we need right now. We need to know that we know what's going on.
And to remember that we have been living in a very artificially simulated facade of markets being rigged, money being rigged, everything being most everything being deceptive. And if you guys remember what we said in the past shows, is the pendulum, especially since JFK's assassination, has swung so far out of balance, so far out, off track, that in order for us to come back and level the playing field, that there are some very crazy stuff and things that are going to I shouldn't say stuff, but there's some very crazy things that are going to happen, events are going to have to take place in order for humanity to swing that pendulum back to some sort of a semblance of balance. So one of the first things that I just want to suggest is that as you are listening to this information, from this day forward, make a pact with yourself and how you're going to affect this entire unified field of this of humanity's evolution, because you each are a part. You are a microcosm within your own field, and you are a part of the macrocosm of this field. Mass consciousness right now is existing in a very low vibration of survival, fear, and as you've heard me say this in the past, it's been a very effective designed assault against humanity. So if you're willing to right now make a pact with yourself that you understand that you are now in the 1% of the have, how we've seen the have and have-nots, the elite, the 1% who have had most of the resources and money and tangibles on the planet. Well, with the pendulum is swinging to the point where we are now the haves, but I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about a vibration that is based in solid groundedness and also love and gratitude. And if you're willing to, right now in this moment, make a pact with yourself that any time you feel yourself getting off kilter, going into fear, or having some sort of program of survival or fear or whatnot come up, that you notice this and that you're the objective observer of your experience, and that you immediately shift to a consciousness of being grateful. Being grateful that you actually have the information at your fingertips. You know that you are in the know, and that you're not a part of the 99% of the people that are going to really kind of be blindsided, either be swept up in this wave of this transition, or they're going to perhaps be left behind and really be fending for in a vibration or even thought process of like, what the frick is going on?
Exactly.
So,
yeah, right? I would just say, yeah, and even from a point of view of people are worried about what happens if the dollar devalues by, say, 5 or 10%. I would say 3 years ago the dollar was 20% weaker than it is right now against global currencies. So 2-3 years ago, when the dollar was 20% weaker, but then it became 20% stronger over those years, did anything change for you? Right? Did you get concerned that the dollar was getting so strong? All right. So if it goes down 5 or 10%, yeah, is it really going to affect your? A dollar will still be a dollar in the United States, right? So it impacts imports and things, but we've been through these cycles, So and the same thing with bank funds. Just because the dollar and other currencies are going to go back. In 1971, when Nixon took the U.S. officially completely out of the gold standard, what changed for anybody who remembers 1971 when that happened, right? Did we wake up and all of a sudden our money was different? Did we wake up and there was new accounts? Did we wake up and we had to do different things? Did the world fall apart, or did it get any better when that happened? I mean, so we just need to stay grounded in the fact that we know, and I think that you're putting it very well. We have to realize that we're now the 1%ers, right?
Right.
I mean, think that's a great way to look at it. We're the ones in know, and we're the ones coming into power, and we've got to be there for the rest of the people when certain announcements are made and certain events start to happen, right? So
because it's going to be inevitable, whether there's official announcements or however it is done or received. Definitely things are going to be noticeable as the changes and the shifts begin to be revealed, basically.
Yeah, I mean, when the new currency standards and algorithms are released and the public know about it worldwide, then comes all the questions and the disclosure as to what was going on in the old system, the fiat system, right? All the manipulation, all the gold price fixing, all the debt to loan ratios, all the derivatives in the bank. All that stuff is going to come out. So that's, other than just going to see the movie, what's it called, the popular movie out now? I forget.
The Big
Easy, or what is it called?
No.
Yeah, Big Easy.
I think
it's New Orleans.
The Big Short.
The Big Short. Hey, New Orleans, I love you guys down there. All right?
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, The Big Short. I mean, people go see that movie and they start to wake up. They see what's going on, right? And there's been other movies made like that. So let's just stay grounded, and if we find ourselves starting to react in fear, we should step back and realize that, hey, we got this. We understand what's going on. We meaning all of us here, right?
Yep.
We understand what's going on, much more than the guy next door does, I'll tell you. So
exactly. Okay, two things, Sean. So what I'd like to do is open up the Q&A queue. So, and then I'd like to talk a bit about the macrocosm of what's going on right now, and including what happened with the lottery this last bit of time that I got some information. Okay, so if you'd like to go ahead and call in, basically what you do is *6 on your phone, and we will come back here in just a couple minutes with starting with Q&A.
Yep.
And it's just going to be Sean and I tonight. So as far as taking and opening up the call line here. Okay, so here's one of the things that, so we just talked about the microcosm. Each of you is a microcosm within this field of information and field of vibration and creation of everything that is unfolding in the transition. Yep. Now, the macrocosm and the big piece of information that came through in part of the communications over the last week with the beings that I do communicate with, and sorry, It's a huge part of why Sean is here and why the people and part of our team are here. And if you don't believe in that kind of stuff, well, then my invitation is to actually suspend some of your disbelief because the confirmations are overwhelming. In any case, what I was being told is this whole situation with the lottery, that the two specific things in regards to that. So this lottery situation, which I think it finally bottomed out, or not bottomed out, but it finally got to, it was between 1.5 and 1.6. I don't know what the exact final total was. But one of the things is that, first of all, and I'm not going to take credit for this, I'm just noting it because this is what I was being told by my guides, is that I landed in LA the week October 30th. I did 3, and Sean wasn't available to participate. Nobody was available to participate with me. Well, actually, Scott did. I did 3 back-to-back calls on Halloween weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, October 30, 31, and November 1. And the title and the intention of those 3 calls was activating the GCR. Now, interestingly enough, this national lottery apparently started November 1st, no winners until this past Wednesday. So as many of you know, because it now has hit international and global records, not only for the amount of money this lottery was, but also the amount of people that were actually buying tickets not only here in the States, but also online in other countries. And so, and Sean, I think you told me Texas was getting sales. What was it you said? Do you remember? I think it was like 2,000 sales a second or something in Texas. Nope, I think you're muted or we can't hear you. In any case, so here's what I was being told is that part of this is part of that lottery is part of the divine plan. And what it did is it gave millions and millions of people an association with millions of dollars. And it became a global conversation of being, and also their attention and their intention going to that dollar amount. So think about this for a second. Millions of people on the planet were engaging with the vibration of wealth and wanting to win that money. And what it did is it accumulated a field of energy that permeated, and then we actually worked with this energy in this unified field to further elevate millions of people being associated with the dollar, with high dollar amounts of money. Sean, do you want to say anything about that? I'm actually not seeing you on the board, so you may have somehow dropped off.
No, I'm here.
Okay, here. Cool. I guess what happens is when you mute, you actually don't show up on the dashboard.
Oh, okay. No,
okay,
go ahead. I don't have anything there.
Okay. So basically, think about this, is that how this is playing out is that it is part of the generating. It's a part of generating very, very high amounts of, or a large amount of people engaging with these dollar amounts. Now, those of us that are here involved with the GCR, we're like, let's say, the 1%ers or whatnot. Now we have millions of people who probably don't even know about the GCR and are now also engaging with millions, actually being a quote-unquote billionaire, let's just say. So I just wanted to bring that in because this was, as I said, it was one of the pieces of communication that I got because it was kind of like, oh, okay, wow. Even for me, it was like, oh, that very much makes sense. So as we're moving forward with everything, even in the next 7 to 8 days, it's really important that each of us stay in this vibration of abundance, and that we're working with bridging different timelines that had been interfered with for humanity's evolution, even going back to JFK, 9/11. I won't get into all the details because I've talked about them in other shows, and even the Wake Up Shift is Happening show. So just presencing that, and that you each are basically like, you're a conduit. If you think about the acupuncture, and that you have an acupuncture needle that goes to a specific area on a meridian in your body, we each are that conduit across the planet. And we're holding that vibration to then spread even the vibration of wealth out to the rest of the world. So I'm just asking you guys to now, the two things is to engage with the path with yourself, to stay in the gratitude that you're part of the 1% of the new have, and that you understand that you are affecting the mass consciousness. Okay, so Sean, shall we go on to the call?
Absolutely.
All right. So now the other thing too, before we get started, is I just want to let you guys know that the website that is has all the posts and all of the replays. You can find everything at wakingupwithdeb.com. We also have started a community that has grown very quickly. Currently, we've paused membership for about the next week or so till we get some other things figured out and weed through that, because we're, as we Sean has said and we've said before, we're no lurker zone. So I just wanted to add that in before we go any further. Okay, so going to the Q&A, we've got area code 219. 219?
Yes. I bring you greetings from Northwest Indiana. Yes,
greetings.
I'm a Hoosier like Sean.
All right.
Okay. My question is, with the sanctions being lifted, is that going to open the door for this REE GCR to come to fruition?
Yeah, as I said a little bit ago, it's just my speculation, because it's not like you can look this up on Wikipedia or anything, but I believe because over these last few weeks, there's been so much activity going on the bond and currency side, within the groups, within even the Republic information, the information coming in about the gold-backed dollar, the TRN, the USN, but yet, it kind of kept going, and there's all this activity, but yet there's no conclusion, meaning somebody's getting paid in spendable money, funds. So I believe that, and then there was this blackout, and then came the lifting of the sanctions on Saturday, and all of a sudden a lot of stuff started lighting up again. So I have to, take that jump and connect the Iranian sanctions being lifted, making them a legal currency again and a welcome member of the international community, both economically and diplomatically. I've got to believe that needed to happen, because Iran is definitely a part of the GCR. They're going to have a strong currency, in my opinion, after the RV. And so now all this stuff is starting to light up, and banks, I don't know. Someone got to tell me, are banks really closed tomorrow or not? Because I don't seem to be able to find an answer to that because of Martin Luther King Day. But we're going to see pretty soon what happens. And if the GCR is a totally legal deal, and we know that the architects of the plan have taken so long to do this, because they're being so cautious and so secure and so over-calculating and whatever, you can't RV a country's currency and be a part of the GCR if it was still under legal sanctions, right? So I'm just going to make that jump and say, yes, I believe the Iranian sanctions were a key part, but that will certainly pan out over this week. We'll learn that in short order. So stay tuned.
Okay, now my last question is, are they gonna when they RV, are the banks gonna accept all of the trillions and the billions dollar notes?
Okay, I'll answer this the way I've answered that question in the past. I have no direct information saying that they're only going to take the trillion notes, the 50 trillion and the 100 trillion. There's only one source that put that out a year and a half ago or whatever that brought that information out, and that's the only source. But I can say in all of my resources, research information, and sources, I have nothing says that it's only the 50T and the 100T notes. I do know groups that have accepted Zim, and they accepted all notes of Zim. So I'll let that statement answer your question, if I may.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, I'll thank you guys for taking my call, and you guys have a good evening, a good Q&A, and I will talk to you guys probably next Sunday.
All right, go Hoosiers.
You.
All right.
All right.
Thank you. We got a lot of Indiana people coming out of the woodwork these days.
I know, isn't that funny?
There's a lot of us out there. You can't get rid of us all. All right.
All right. So let's go with 303. That is right, Colorado.
Yes. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
I appreciate the call here. Your information just recently started being posted on Dinar recaps, and that's the only reason I know you guys exist now, which is a good thing. All the sources we can hear from are always best.
Yep.
But I just want to cut to the chase here because I do follow Dinar recaps and all of the education we've had, the dealings with this, the past, what we've learned, how this came to fruition. I only have one simple question for you, and I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. You know what the term window means in Dinar land, correct?
Of course. Well,
yeah.
I know the term window.
That's my only question. Not asking a date, very simply asking your opinion, in your opinion, to protect yourself. Your window. What's your window you guys are thinking about?
I am saying the window, okay, again, if banks are open tomorrow or not, I don't know.
But wait, Sean, I think it's important to clarify what you have clarified in the past because there's different levels. We've got levels of the private groups and then versus the public.
I was about to say that. Right?
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, the definition of window for activities, now that all of the things have been transpiring that I mentioned in the beginning of the show.
Deb, I'm having a hard time hearing.
Really?
Yes, I'm sorry, Sean. You're fading out, my friend.
Yeah. Am I better? The signal.
Yeah, that's a little better. Yes.
Okay. All right. So I would say the window looks very good beginning this week, whether it's Monday or Tuesday, depending on the banks being open, for, again, like I said, a lot of activity has restarted over the last 48 to 72 hours. But as Deb mentioned, there are hierarchies, right? There are high-level currency groups and high-level bond platform groups. They go first. Am I breaking up still?
Yes, you are, but real simple. Okay, the window begins possibly Monday or Tuesday. Just say this week. That's fine. When is the dead end of that window? That's all I care about.
Yeah.
When's the dead end of that window?
All right, well, the end is when the final groups go, right, because there's a hierarchy and a structure. So how long it takes between the high-level groups before they start the mid-level groups and then they get out to the broadest level group, which is like G64 and Internet, nobody knows whether those will all execute within 72 hours of each other or whether they need one level to pretty much complete before they move to the next level. So I could say the window is just to generalize, in my opinion, the window we're looking at starting this week and ending within 2 weeks after that, 2 to 3 weeks.
Ending when, sir? I'm sorry?
Within 2 to 3 weeks, definitely into February, I think, for the last stages to execute.
Okay. I greatly appreciate that. Well, honestly, I can't think of anything else.
But here's the other thing. I mean, I just want to say in regards to that is of course, we're only speculating.
Yep.
Because we have no idea. I have a funny feeling that they're flying by the seat of their pants because they never, I'm going to say they, and I'm referring to the people that the group, some people will call them the cabal or whatever, the bankers, the banksters, etc. They never thought this was going to see the light of day. So part of the challenge, I believe, has been that, and the weight and the roller coaster has been that the infrastructure was not set up the way that it should have been years ago in order for this process to go smoothly. And it's my opinion and feeling is that because of that, it's such an unknown until people actually the groups really start being going through the funnel of the exchanging and whatnot. There's going to be we have no idea. There's conjecture right now in regards to how long this is going to take. It's going to be a day by day, basically, experience.
Yeah, that makes sense. The only other thing I will ask real quick, off the record here, why have we not found you guys to listen to as a source up until now? I mean, seriously, Dinar Recaps has only been posting your information for the last few weeks.
I understand. I have to believe because we are approaching well over 10,000 listens and views of our replays now, and we've only been doing this for 7 weeks, right?
8.
So,
this is our 8th.
This is the 8th. Okay.
This is our 8th show. Yeah.
Yeah. So at first we couldn't get anybody to even acknowledge we were having a call in terms of Dinar Land kind of media, but I guess now, because we certainly didn't ask them recently, but now we're there. So thank you, Recaps. Thank you, Dinar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Well, you're very welcome. Appreciate listening to you guys.
Thank you. And the other thing, too, is all the replays are on the YouTube channel that you can find on YouTube for Shift is Happening TV. So they're all there. And I must say there's actually, because the way that we have set this up is that obviously Sean is sharing a lot of the 3D, very detailed information regarding the finances, and I'm bringing through a lot of the more esoteric, spiritual, energetics aspect of all this and the whole transition and transformation. But because we're taking all these calls, and you guys are the callers, you guys are the ones that are actually prompting the way that the show actually rolls out, right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
So the call, you guys are basically the guests.
Exactly. Yeah. And that reminds me, you're also a psychic medium yourself, correct?
I don't actually refer to myself as a psychic. I refer to myself. What has occurred for me is the veil was pulled back for me some time ago. It's been almost 10 years, but a very significant thing that happened in 2010, where the telepathic communication, because I was so miffed, basically really pissed, that humanity was having such a challenging time, and light workers especially. I don't actually really like that term, but for sake of not another terminology, but we're so broke. And I was just like, what the frick? And how can we possibly be on a spiritual journey and thousands of us being broke when we've been successful when we were out there in the 3D world? Like, what is going on, right?
Yeah.
And then that's when the veil was pulled back for me, and I have been strategizing with the beings that I work with for this contingency plan, which is what I refer to it as. And Sean and Scott and the team that are around us are all part of that. So this whole thing with this GCR, it's part of the contingency plan, because this money was supposed to have been released when 9/11 occurred, right?
Okay.
Right?
Oh, yeah, I didn't realize that, but okay.
Okay. If you go back and look at the YouTube channel, and you take the time, and some of the shows are very long, 2 to 3 hours, a lot of detail is given in those, even especially the 3 shows that I did, the GCR activations back in October over Halloween. But the money was supposed to have been released through the prosperity programs, the farmer stuff, the 9/11. I mean, we've connected, Sean and I, especially in these last 7 shows prior, we have connected a lot of dots and suggest that people go down the, really go down the rabbit hole in order to understand what's been going on,
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Yeah, most people don't realize that 9/11 actually stopped the GCR and the gold backing of currencies. That was one of its primary purposes for happening. And actually, a lot of people do get that. And when we started talking about it on previous shows, a lot of word of mouth started. And thanks to everyone. We're giving up good information, and I appreciate everyone liking it. So,
yeah. Well, I'll go back into your YouTube channel there. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel, and get more history. It looks like I need even more education now. So, yeah. Okay,
yay for the 1%ers, the new 1%ers. Woohoo!
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for your time this evening, guys.
Thank you.
And
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so, hey, we're going to go to my stomping ground, area code 310. You are up.
Hey, Deb and Sean. How you doing? It's Glenn.
Hi.
Hello.
Glenn?
Glenn. Hello.
Hi.
Yes, from Southern California. Listen, I was going to ask you a question on, if this thing was supposed to happen all these different times before, how much, and now that we've gone into Iraq since 9/11, how much now is Iraq dependent on this whole thing happening? Is Iraq dependent on this whole thing happening? Or is it China that's pulling this switch? Or because of what's going on in Mosul, they're saying that it could be another year before that is under control. And if everything we're hearing about security is the most important part, and all these different laws are supposed to be put into place. And I've also heard the laws are supposed to be happening when the whole thing happens, like it all pops in together.
Yeah. Deb, can I get that one?
Yeah.
Well, okay, Sean, I think you should respond as well. But the thing that I would say to that is that I believe that you can't look at one puzzle, Iraq, right? That's really what you're looking at, correct?
More or less, yeah.
Okay. This is a global situation. I mean, it's really important to bring all the pieces of the puzzle together. And that includes AIIB, SIPs, understanding like all the different things that have taken place, and understanding that there was a very, very tight control mechanism within the banksters, and that they didn't give up their control. And so a whole entire plan B needed to be put in place. And it's taken about 1.5 years at least, not to mention BRICS, which started back in, August 2011 is when I first started hearing about it, right? So you can't just look at Iraq. It's everything. It's the entire world.
Yeah. To answer the question very succinctly, bottom line, the bad guys went into Iraq. They were going to rape and pillage the resources, take over. They were going to make a fortune on it through the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. The people found out about it. It was folded into the greater GCR plan at that point. So the bad guys didn't get to rape and pillage and make trillions and trillions of dollars on the RV because it was only supposed to be for them and the banks, right? So we found out, and now that the public has gotten involved and people all over the world, like everyone on this call, and in dinar land, an entire new contingency came out that included folding Iraq into the GCR. And we've, as Deb has said, is exactly right. We've needed things like BRICS to start standing up to the greater powers, the old Bretton Woods guys, and also we needed infrastructure like the AIIB and the new Chinese international CIPS system, which is a wire transfer system to break the monopoly of the SWIFT system. Right, so all those things are in place now, and I forgot to mention that I believe the AIIB went officially operational this weekend, or Friday, or yesterday, or something like that. So that could be another reason why things are all of a sudden lighting up, and we're seeing a lot of information come out over the last 72 hours that this is getting imminent at this point. So I say if Iraq could have RV'd 2 years ago, they would have done it, but they're waiting for the GCR. That's the opinion of us.
Okay, so it really doesn't have anything much to do with, I mean, you're only talking about one major city left in Iraq, which is pretty small comparison in size. So it doesn't really matter about that end of it.
Yeah, and as far as all the laws go, like HCL and the amnesty law and all the things that they talk about, you watch when the GCR happens and they RV their currency, all those laws will just automatically be done. They'll say, they're passed. It'll, I don't think it's going to be the laws and then the RV. I think it's going to be the RV, and then on the concurrent, all the laws are going to be passed or official at that point as well. But that's my opinion.
Right. Do you think we'll be talking about this in the first half of the year, or do you think we'll be planning a lot more humanitarian projects?
I think we're going to be on full-on humanitarian mode in the not-too-distant future. Okay?
After some very significant vacations.
Yes.
Yeah. So is Anna von Reitz with supposedly the debarring of everyone in the government? Do you think that's actually going to happen?
Yes, I do.
Good. I heard something like the 16th or 17th of this month.
Which is now.
Yeah. Well, that's what
Hey, and the other thing, too, in regards to Anna von Reitz is that, and we mentioned this last week as well, if you aren't tracking her, track her. Because this is a person that has now really stepped into her power as is the correct terminology, Sean, a common law judge?
Common law judge, along with common law grand juries being set up in every state. I think they're already set up in just about every state. And, common law sovereignty being put into place back as the rule of law, not only in the United States. That'll be first, but then it'll spread from there.
And what's interesting, too, is so the title of our show this week is about freedom. Financial wealth, here's the title, is what we put forth. Financial wealth brings freedom, but not liberation from the system. Let's talk sovereign freedom. So I think that we're not going to actually really get a chance to really delve into that today. But what's important, and I'm really glad you brought her up, is that she has stepped into her power as a common law judge. And what's important for each of us to remember is that we have grown up and been programmed to give our power over to an authority that is basically an imposter authority. As we move forward with this GCR, and we as 1%ers have got to understand that in part of this whole GCR process is the facade of that authority being removed. And that each of us stepping into our sovereign free being as a free will being. And we're going to talk a lot more about that in the future, because it's imperative. You've got to shift your beingness with this GCR, or you're going to get left behind energetically. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yes, I'm already changing.
Good.
One of the good things, I can't wait till this whole thing is kind of over, so everyone will say he's not a nut. The only thing is I won't be able to talk about it after signing an NDA.
You just can't talk about your rates. You can't talk about your rates. You can't talk about what you did, regarding the exchange. But you can talk about everything else.
Okay.
NDA is not going to take your freedom of speech away. NDA just says if you make a private deal and you get offered a private rate that the general public didn't get, you can't talk about it. It's just like any business transaction where if you go in to talk about merging companies or sharing proprietary technology, everyone involved signs an NDA and you don't talk about that deal. And that's it, but you can talk about everything else. So.
Okay, great.
Glenn, thank you for being here and calling in.
You have a little gargle at this end. Hopefully it's just my phone.
Okay. Hopefully. Is it both of us or just me, or?
It's everyone.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I hear you just fine, Deb. I hear you great. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, I hear you too.
I appreciate all you do, and look forward to next week.
Thank you. We are too. And we might not be here next week.
I think we say that every week now.
I know.
But here we are.
Moment to moment.
Yeah. Nobody knows when everything is going to happen, and I'll be the first to always say that.
Right.
But we're always
that would be a wonderful thing. I've been praying for the end of this month. It's my birthday. I'm an Aquarian who's going to put this thing forward like there's no tomorrow. So
there you go.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the call.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm going to continue to say I hope we don't have to do this show next week, or if we do the show, I'm going to do it from the Caribbean islands.
Right,
So,
exactly.
exactly.
Well, and the other thing, too, in regards to that is that we definitely are going to continue this show after the post-GCR, but we'll probably take a couple weeks off, that's for sure.
Yeah, R&R, baby, R&R.
Oh, big time. Okay, here we go. Next caller, we have area code 516. There, 516.
Greetings from the Big Apple, from the Big Apple, you guys. How are you? R.B. Hunter here.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Question for Sean. Now that we have the Iran situation taken care of, sanctions removed, what do you think, or have you been hearing what the rate of the real should be?
Oh man, okay. There's a lot of banter going on, a lot of stuff, people talking about this, right? First, what has to happen, in my opinion, I've researched this pretty thoroughly, and for anyone who researches it, you can see the entire map of how Iran is going to do this. They even talk about how they're going to consolidate their currency. They've got their own central bank that will handle this. So the first thing that has to happen is their currency needs to be reinstated. With all of the press releases and all of the news out there on Iran sanctions being lifted yesterday, I cannot find one thing where it says, and the Iranian rial is going to be now internationally re-welcomed in. But I have to assume that because they're saying they're going to be now full-fledged member of the international community, both economically and diplomatically, I've got to assume that means the currency, even though they don't mention the real in any of the news, right, or in any of the back channel reports. So it'll be reinstated, and what's the rate going to be? I can't see the real being really high in value until the GCR happens, and they're part of that. That being said, that could be happening right now because the GCR is beginning to accelerate. The actual logistical process is accelerating once again. So, let's see it reinstate. Let's see what it comes out at. Will it revalue? Look where oil is, right? Oil is below $30 a barrel. Their main economy is oil. So I don't believe that's going to help their currency so much. But let's see. So I don't know. But I believe that for the real rate that makes it interesting for us who are holding real, and I am, I think an RV has to happen, right? So let's let that play out over the coming few days here, and let's see what happens.
All right. Well, let me say that you guys are both coming through loud and clear for me. There's no drop in the calls. It's been very clear, so maybe it's the other people's phones. But, hey, we got a little less than an hour to go. If everybody keeps their questions short, we can get through 10, 20 more people. I'm done.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Hi there, Deb and Sean. It's Cheryl. I think I usually say from Nevada. I just wanted to give an update on the case that was filed on the DOJ and the attorneys.
Okay.
It went into default, and I believe starting Tuesday or thereafter, they will be starting to take property that is owned by some of the judges. They've already planned it. I know where they're starting. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the property goes to the county. So everything is happening.
Okay, so Cheryl, let's back up for 1 second. Just because people that didn't hear last week's show, just really quickly what you're talking about, fast.
Okay, there was a case filed against the DOJ and barred attorneys because they're working for a corporation. They're
right.
not working for the people of the United States.
Right.
So that has now gone into default,
Yep.
and there's nothing they can do. They have no other recourse. So now we go collecting what they own.
Okay. So what you're saying is, okay, so when you said that it went into default, what you're saying is, because it cut out also for a second, at least on my end, is that they're starting to, and who is the they? Are we referring to common law?
Yes.
Judges?
Common law. Yes. No.
Okay.
As far as the default is the DOJ and attorneys that are barred. And if they did not disbar, if they, stuck with their corporation, then they are now owing the $279 trillion.
They're part
of
that.
On the case are not the only people.
So you're saying that when you say DOJ, just to clarify for people who may not know, that's the Department of Justice.
Right.
And all barred attorneys, that means any attorney that is a member of the National Bar Association.
Which pretty much all of them are, for the most part.
Well, and a lot of them don't even realize that they've been part of the corporation. But they were all notified, so it's not like they're unaware now. And I think the word is ignorant doesn't matter.
Right, and this has to do with the filing that Anna Von Wright, Judge Anna Von Wright, that we were just talking about, did, correct?
Right, and Steve Curry, who is still sitting in jail right now.
Okay, all right.
But he's working with a lot of people, and I'm not going to say who they're going after first, but I know they're going after a pretty piece of property. I can say that.
Okay, so here's my suggestion is everyone that's hearing this, hold in your thought process, because this is a huge piece of this evolution for humanity and the transition out of the enslavement matrix. Hold in your thought process that all of this comes to fruition. Just keep seeing, as Cheryl is giving us updates here, just keep seeing this as done. And you may not even understand everything we're talking about, and there's probably going to be a whole education that's going to end up occurring over the next several months of what's happening. But if you just keep holding in your thought process that all of this, in whatever is in highest divine good for humanity, that it keeps coming to the surface as coming into fruition. That's my request.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Cheryl, for the update. Yeah, keep us updated on that. This is very good information.
Did you get my email, Deb?
Yes, and I'm going to get back to you this week. It's been pretty hectic since I got back to the States.
Of what I can share. How's that?
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
By the way, RV, and tomorrow is good for me.
And it's Martin Luther King. Let's acknowledge and honor him, right?
That's right.
Yep.
What a perfect day. What a perfect day.
Sovereign freedom. Absolutely.
Apropos, exactly. All right, Cheryl, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, here we go. So let's go with 812.
Hey, Sean, another Hoosier here.
Hey, 812.
Sounds like we're dominating the call.
You guys, really?
So
was
there.
A memo that was sent out?
219, now 812. Wow. Well, I want to say I've been a part of all of your calls. This is Ceci, and I know I've been in touch with both of you. And I don't have questions, but I just have a few comments I'd like to make. You two, you totally rock. The balance of your energy is incredible. The brilliance and the clarity that the two of you speak with it's just so fulfilling for the soul and the minds and the curiosity that we all have and the missing pieces that you are bridging together. I just want the two of you to know the gratitude in the so-called dinar land is really, really great. So that was really my only comment, and the community that you are creating as we go forth. And just one comment on a caller earlier that commented or asked a question about the NDA is, and I think we all know that as we step into this revaluation of ourselves and these funds that we have, that we are really going to need each other because it isn't
big
something.
Time.
It is not something we are going to want to be espousing to in our lives.
In isolation.
And I know that's one reason why the two of you came out of the closet to join together, is to create this community so that post everything that's happening now, and we're just in the whirlwind of it, of everything coming to fruition. That's the part, like to be able to work together in the future, to collaborate and to co-dream and to co-share and to strategize together in the different clusters as we develop together. I just say bravo to the two of you, you and the team. I know you've always alluded, you've been very generous alluding to the team behind you. I just really want to congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
To my eyes, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for letting me ramble. And I do want to be in touch with you because I've been working with a group. I've limited the group that I have to 100 people, and it's been an amazing group. We've been together for about 1.5 years in this ride, and we have really focused on asset protection. And we've done a lot of research into different kinds of trusts, and I think we all know there's more than, 80 different kinds of irrevocable trusts. And I'd love to share some of that information with you, the complex, irrevocable common law trusts at some point. And I know, Deb, we were emailing back and forth at one point.
Thank you for reminding me. It's crazy, the travel.
I know,
And I thank you. As soon as you started talking about that, I was like, oh, my gosh, I know who this is. And when you started talking about the trust, thank you for calling in. And, yes, let's connect this week. Let's talk further about it because I do think that this is a big piece to get some information to people. Yeah, Sean and I have actually talked about this kind of at length because here's the other thing, you guys, all of you. You've got to do your research. You've got to do your homework. And I know, and John used the word paralysis, right? I know some of this can be daunting. So that's why I have been saying for years, we're in this together. And you're absolutely correct. We don't want to do this in isolation. And that's why we started the community. And we know that it's there to really create a foundation for this whole new earth reality, right?
And there's just one thing that I did not thank you for. I thanked you for your brilliance and your clarity, and I also want to thank both of you for the love that you're bringing into your words and your actions and how you've drawn us together. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
It's all about love.
Thank you. You see how great people from Indiana are, Deb? Thank you very much. I'm humbled. I'm glad we're of service.
Me too. Much love to you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's rock and roll on to the next caller, area code 484.
Hey, Sean. Hey, Deb. How you doing? It's Art from Pennsylvania.
Hey, Art.
I'm from Pennsylvania. Woohoo!
I remember last time we talked a while ago. I have a couple things, questions and clarities. We had talked a while ago, and I understood that when this starts and all of us start going and getting paid, that it's going to move pretty quickly because they need this to get done once it gets going. Do you still feel that'll happen? I mean, if this starts like this week, that it'll go pretty fast?
I will say one key piece of information I've always had going back several years, and it remains consistent today, is that the one thing that the architects want to do not want to encourage, I don't know any other way to say it, or not happen, is they don't want double dipping, right? And because that can get out of hand really quick if you just think about the numbers. So I believe that once this starts, if double dipping is a real concern, I've got to believe logically, extrapolating that out, that means that they have to execute all of this pretty quickly within the groups, with, you know, whether it's the high level, then moving on down to the internet, you know, G64 type of level. I believe that they've got to do it in short order to, you know, bringing the funds to bear so that, you know, they can shut things down and make that happen. So, but
okay.
That said, you know, nobody knows the timing in between once this starts executing, and a lot has been executing over the last few weeks. No doubt, nobody disputes that in the background. No researcher disputes that. No so-called guru disputes that. But the bottom line is nobody's received spendable funds. So maybe all this execution and logistics has been happening for a reason to bring everything up to a level of readiness so that when the funds are released and they're able to be released, which hopefully is now, then everything can go pretty quick, right? And I'm going to stick with that because I'm an optimist, right? So.
I love that. And I've also heard a lot of different things from some of the other people talking that have been in this for a long time, and some of them are talking that they believe that, I'm not sure how true this is, but that Iraq and Iran the rates will go up. I mean, this is a perfect storm right now. And they said that with the holiday weekend and, you know, our banks and the Forex is down till Tuesday, and that the rate just might, like Kuwait, just pop up Tuesday morning, you know, that everything is moving forward. Do you feel that's still a possibility?
Yeah, too? I've actually heard some information relating to exactly just that. And the key is some countries are going to go way up, right, because of the way they're situated and their economic situation, resource situation, and that type of thing. So the question is will the rates be there for the what I call the group transactions, which is on the private side of this whole thing, or will the rates maintain through the public announcements of the GCR? And will those rates be the same once the gold-backed dollar comes to bear within the world market under the GCR as well? That's the big mystery, which is why I always say, and this is what I'm going to do, but it is not advice for anybody listening, I'm exchanging all my currency when I get the chance, right? I'm really not holding anything back for playing the Forex markets or any. I mean, I understand how to play the Forex, but I'm not going to do it. It's just I don't want to have to worry about that stuff or get involved in all of that. So I'm getting in and I'm getting out because I believe that they're going to offer us some great rates based on forward rate agreements on the GCR contracts, and that's going to be available on the private side. And by the time this whole thing goes public, I have no idea where the rates are going to be when all the gold-backed currencies are brought out to the public domain. I just don't know. But I'm not willing to risk that with my currency. So
well, I've heard they said that even, like, not everybody's watching the Forex right now. Most people have given up, commoners have given up on the IQD. So if they raise the rate, it'd still take people a couple of weeks before they realize it was happening. So it brings me to my last question to you. This is something that I've been thinking about. Now, with China doing a lot of influence in the stock market, here we have our stock exchange and banks are closed tomorrow. Theirs is not. It's active now. Euro is active now. So I believe what I've heard from some of the other groups, they've been talking about perfect storm, amazing things are going to happen this week. So my thought is maybe the last big push from China to bring everything down to the lowest they can will be tonight and tomorrow, because if their market goes down for 2 days, Euro goes down, and all of a sudden we open up on Tuesday and everything's really low, oil's lower, gold's lower. That'll be the perfect intro for everything to move forward. What do you feel on that?
I agree with that 100%. Absolutely.
I do too.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, you guys are doing a really amazing job, and I've really enjoyed, listening to you both. And, in a lot of respect, I really hope you don't have a session next Sunday.
Right.
We're all going to be,
like vacationing.
And this has been a heck of a roller coaster, but I just, I really also feel listening to yourselves, and I've been kind of piecing all the puzzles together, and everybody's talking dates, but it's winding down, and everything seems to be pointing to this week as the week that'll go down in history. And I really believe, based upon all the intel, and I think also I agree that Iran going on Saturday, the sanctions being relieved, I think that was the sleeper piece of the puzzle that no one counted on.
Yep. And the AIIB going operational.
Yes.
The Asian
and I understand that with
Yep.
the AIIB going, now that they can start releasing funds. So I'll let get off here to let other people talk, but you've been also doing an amazing job, and I thank you very much for everything you put out.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, and there's another thing too, Sean. I would like people to hold in their consciousness. So the oil has dropped. The prices of the barrels has dropped like incredibly, right?
It went on a downward spiral. Yep, below 30.
Right.
Yep.
But there places like California and even in Nevada where we are, the prices at the gas stations are not reflecting that. So I'm just going to ask people to hold in their consciousness and the intention that those prices are actually reflected to us at the gas pumps. And
that would be great. Yeah.
Right?
Because they're really screwing the western states. I don't understand why the rest of the country is at record low gas prices in the last 10 years, and in California, Nevada, and maybe some other states, I don't know, in the West are still like where they were, 6 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. In California, it's over. They're still at just over $3 a gallon. Yeah. So hold in your consciousness that. The other thing too is just as what the gentleman that was just talking, that this is the week. So we are in it is done vibration, holding that in your consciousness. Okay, let's go to the next caller. Let's go ahead. What were you going to say?
I just said thank you so much for everything, and I will really focus on that. And by the way, it's $1.97 here at the pumps at Wawa, and I'm pretty blown away by that.
Isn't that crazy? And it's like $3. And even in California, there's places you can go literally a mile away from each other, and it's 50 cents more a gallon.
Yep.
It's just ridiculous.
Right, here in Nevada, it's still hovering around $2.50 to $2.60, right? Some are down to $2.39 at a few of the places, but still, that's just, I know some states are having gas like $1.80, $1.71, $1.68, right? That kind of thing. So it's like, come on, people. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, caller.
Thank you.
Okay, so here we go. We've got the next caller is area code 817.
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Here you are. Hi.
Yes. Excuse me. I just was listening to everyone speak. Let me see. My thought was special drawing rights. How does that play into the changes?
So are you speaking of the SDRs that are at the IMF?
Is that with the IMF? IMF?
Yeah. Yeah, the International Monetary Fund, it regulates what are called special drawing rights, and what that is they look at it as like a currency of its own, and then each country that's a member of the IMF each country's currency has a value based on the IMF SDR. So, the U.S. dollar is equal to $1 is equal to like 1.67 SDRs, right?
So if they alleviate the currency, is that going to be a special drawing right?
We could go into the SDR thing, and it could take quite a while. But the bottom line is the SDR is really just a way of relating countries' debts to each other as reflected in the share of an SDR. So if I'll just
it has
take
to do
the
with
short.
The country's debt.
Yes, I mean that's what determines their rate. So their share of the SDR pie. So if the GCR comes through and the global financial reset, which is a bigger part of the the GCR is a piece of the global financial reset. Right. When the global financial reset fully executes and is completed, we're talking about the fiat system being dismantled. So either the SDR regime is going to go away because the debts will be, wiped out or written down or however you want to say that. So either an SDR will be gold-backed at some point if they want to continue to relate currencies to some type of, loan system. But I don't think the IMF is going to be doing the same thing they're doing after the financial reset. I don't think they'll be in the loaning money business, right? So I think the SDR is pretty irrelevant, but I know a lot of economists would love to debate me on that one. So, but I'm saying it's relevant in the future. Yep.
One question here I'm not too clear on. How do I word this?
Quickly?
Okay. The revalue. Oh, yeah, with the Iran currency. I thought it was not going to be for U.S. citizens like the Iraqi currency because there was an executive order.
Well, if sanctions are lifted, which they are, that means the Iranian rial is now back in the global financial community, which means that anybody can own it. So
it's a currency.
It's a legal, lawful currency, and if there's no sanctions preventing that anymore, there should be no issue with anybody, including Americans, purchasing and owning real. Because as you know, when the sanctions were on, the only way we could buy real is by declaring that we're collecting it as a collector's item, right? Like a collector item. So, but yeah, with sanctions being gone, I haven't looked up to see if any executive orders have changed now. But I believe an executive order has to be signed to lift the sanctions, at least from the U.S. point of view, right? Not just the United Nations Security Council, right? So, but bottom line, if Iran is part of the global financial community again, with sanctions being lifted, their currency is legit across the world. That's my short take.
And that's different from the Iraqi currency because of the war?
Well, the Iraqi currency is, we can own it, and actually the Executive Order 13303, which George Bush Jr. signed, allowed, it was really put into place to allow American companies to move into Iraq and do things with the, to make investments in Iraq, and to build infrastructure and do those kinds of things. And of course, they'd have to do those transactions with Iraqi dinar. So that executive order was passed to allow companies to do that, but it also applied to citizens as well. So yeah, totally different situation between Iraq and Iran regarding the currency.
I just was not clear on that. And one more side point has to do with the Queen of England. What's up with that? There's funds supposed to be available to the
right. Well, the Queen of England is connected to the bigger part of the fiat system, and also the enslavement mechanism that we're all under right now, which is controlled via the fiat system, the banking and finance and that type of thing. So the bottom line is the GCR is being funded by some very large funds that go back in history and antiquity, and they have been entrusted. These are trusts, and the trustees over time, over hundreds of years, these humanitarian funds have been entrusted to what's called the royals and the royal family. So that would include China and Europe and all the usual type of characters, which includes the Queen of England, right, the monarchy. So all of that, in order for the GCR to go through, because it's those funds that are being released, is actually funding the currency, is backing the currencies with gold and that type of thing. So all of that had to be what's called the Gold Treaty, was signed by 188 countries about, a year and a half ago, and that's connected to where the royals were signing on the dotted line to finally release the World Global Settlement Funds, the Matrix Trust Funds, and all of these kinds of things that are not common knowledge or public knowledge, but you can find all the information on the Internet if you look.
Right.
And so that's why the Queen had to sign, and other royals as well, to release those funds, to make them available.
So I was reading online today that the funds, more information about the funds will be released every day after today. Information in regards.
Oh, I like it. That's even more information that this week.
And dispense.
All right. So there's another data point.
You might want to tune in to CNN or SPN, and as well as our Dinar Intel website to keep informed as to when, how, and how much and where will be dispensed. I just wanted to bring that up.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for that information.
This is my first time on the call.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
And I will be tuning in to listen to see what's going on, because we are the 1%. And since I've been in with the Dinar since 2011, I've learned more about the world, per se, just being a Dinarian.
Right? You and me both. And I ever thought I would understand, ever.
Because once you read about the RVs or Iraqis, there's articles that take you off to other tangents, and it is so informative, and I feel like I've researched and become so educated with the world and those corrupt that are misleading the whole United States and
humanity.
And
Absolutely.
Manipulating for greed and fear.
Yep.
And it's a shame because, like you said, a lot of people aren't aware of what's going on next door or next state or in the next country. But the people I talk to about the Dinars, I also tell them about other articles that refer to, how they talk about this New World Order. Yeah, right. And the GCR. All this stuff is happening for a reason. Not only is it prophesied, but it's also just a humanitarian thing, and with the funds that's been in the lineage of the king and the queen, that should have happened 50 years ago. But
so, and it is needed. Yep, and it's very important to have this information and to be empowered. So, thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Okay, you're welcome, and thank you for letting me in on the call.
Thank you.
Much love. Bye-bye. All right, moving along here, we're going to area code 979.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Elizabeth in Texas.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello.
Hi. I've been listening to your calls now. I guess this is the fifth one I've listened to. You guys seem very informative. I've really enjoyed listening to y'all. I had a couple of questions. Questions, but comments too. You were talking about the lottery and how it's worked into the big plan. I also hear on TV about HR Block giving away $1,000 a day for 30 days, which is about $32 million. I guess with tax returns they'll be doing this year. I don't know if that fits into anywhere where more money in the system, And also, Publishers Clearinghouse. They're giving away $5,000 a week and $5,000 to whoever you want them to give it to. It just seems like it's just like more money, putting more money out there. I just, I saw
those. It's great. Yeah, no, you know what? I think it's great to actually think about that, because part of what's happening is the floodgates that have been shut down through manipulation and inversions. And this whole 9/11 situation was definitely a ceremony ritual that was an inversion, and I've talked about that in previous shows. The floodgates are reopening because people are calling it forth, and this GCR is a huge part of that. So the more you think about it, like those two examples that you just mentioned, it really doesn't matter, honestly, if it is part of the great plan or not, or the contingency plan. What matters is people thinking about it.
Yes, ma'am. And when you had mentioned earlier about 9/11, when the GCR was supposed to have happened back then, I had read that it was like the Twin Towers actually was a diversion, and the main target was the Pentagon area because it had all of the codes and stuff in it to carry out this thing.
Not only the Pentagon, but Sean and I have talked about the Building 7, the third building that went down.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes.
Yep.
And
it had both the Pentagon and that building, yep.
All those codes. But you stop and think, if this thing had really happened when it was supposed to be carried out, think of all of the money that would have been in people's hands that really were out to destroy.
Well,
but, Maliki and all of that. They could have had their hands on a lot more money than we would have never got them out of there.
Well, actually, the GCR being stopped. Remember, the GCR is not an RV. A GCR is a currency reset. It's the gold and asset backing of currencies, meaning no more fiat money, which is funny money, right, based on nothing, backed by nothing. So actually, if the GCR would have been allowed to go when it was supposed to on 9/11.
Wait, Sean, hold on. I actually want to change something. I just want to. It wasn't considered a GCR back then. Back then, what it was, and you just said it's not revaluation. Back then, what it was the global collateral account. And all of everything that had been occurring with the farmers and for prosperity programs, right? So all that was part of the Great Awakening that was meant to assist humanity's evolution. I just want to, because now it's changed and is now being lumped in this whole GCR situation. So, Sean, go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I thought also a part of what was going to happen was those, of course, I agree, the collateral funds were being released, right? But I also thought that backing currencies going back to the gold standard was also part of what was going to happen around 9/11, right? Those funds would have backed it.
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't read anything on that, and I don't know.
Okay. I could be picking up some stuff, but I do that all the time.
But let me just say about what I've been told by my guides, what was meant to occur energetically back then, is that with all the release of that money and the humanitarian, the collateral funds, etc., what would have happened energetically is millions of people that were aware of their life purpose on the planet, that were here to bring forth more light on the planet and projects and whatnot. Heart chakras would be way more opened than they are now. With those opened heart chakras, with sacred partners coming together, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in now. We wouldn't have, I don't think, Maliki wouldn't have even been, he wasn't even in power back then. I mean, it was, do you know what I mean? But then we're all in a situation of shoulda, coulda, woulda, and, all we can really do is look at where we are in the present moment in this timeline and activate and move forward with where we are right now.
Okay, my next question is not really about, when you talk about energetic is this spiritual? Are you talking like spiritual?
That's part of it, yeah.
Okay. And the light, is that like being a Christian and living your life to help other people? It's just a different choice of words?
Yeah, let me just clarify something. In regards, since we're talking about 9/11, the information that I have been given is that 9/11 created a different timeline. What was created was like a downward spiral of darkness. So we have been existing in a very, and I'm using the word existing because very little has been thriving on the planet.
When you say darkness, you mean evil?
I don't want to, here's the thing, I don't want to put it into religious words, so I don't want to get locked into evil. I'm just going to say darkness, things that are not of love, not of light, not of unification, not of God, source, whatever it is that your belief is, it has been a very, it's been lacking that energetic vibration. Does that make sense?
Love. Okay. The lack of love, do unto others as that type thing?
Yep.
Yep.
Do unto others like the golden rule?
Lack of compassion. Yep. Lack of compassion, lack of love, lack of financial means, lack of security. Look at all the things that have happened. Yep. Look at all the things that have happened since 9/11.
Well, that makes me feel more comfortable. I mean, you guys, I love listening to y'all, but it made me feel like maybe I was getting into something that I didn't need to be getting into. And, you know, I'm a lady of faith, and, you know, I'm a Bible person, and I'm like, some of these things, the different choices of words, I'm thinking, oh, gosh, am I listening to something that's going to put me on, you know, turn me around in a different way of thinking? And so anyhow, I just want to clarify a few things.
Thank you for your clarification.
Okay, thank you. Y'all are wonderful. Move on to the next person. And I'm like you guys. I hope we're not making a call next Sunday. And when Sean was talking about Caribbean Life, I was sitting here watching DYI, and they were doing Caribbean Life people looking at the property. I was watching it, and they were doing house-centered things on Caribbean, and I thought about it.
There we go.
Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you. Put the lime in the coconut, man.
Cocktails with umbrellas. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good evening.
You.
Okay.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. Let's go with the next caller, area code 707.
Hi, this is Cheryl. And
Hi,
not
Cheryl.
The previous, different one.
Right.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Oh, okay. So my question is, I did look at the judge stuff that was talked about last week, and so I was just wondering, we didn't talk at all about bail-ins with the banks, and I guess the concern I have is a safe place to put my money if I have to worry about that with all the things that are shifting. Where's a safe place to put money? And as far as trusts, are all the trusts going to change because the laws are changing or going back to common law? Those are my two questions.
Okay. Deb, I can take a stab at that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. When we talk about in general going back to sovereignty or common law as opposed to admiralty law, which is what we are all under right now, although some people are telling me that's changed last week, but until we see evidence of that. But and that the governments of the world, or particularly the central banking system, two key components. The governments of the world are corporations right now. They are all incorporated, and those will be dissolved. And as Cheryl came on last week and tonight is giving us, live updates on the progress of that, there's a $217 trillion lawsuit out, and they're in default, meaning the Department of Justice and
as
that
of 2 days ago.
Yep, and they're a corporation, just like all of your municipalities are corporations. Corporate limit of their cities, all of that type of stuff. Jurisdictions, courts are corporations, operating under financial business law. That's called admiralty law, and it goes way back to the days of Rome and all of that. So what's going to change is that governments are going to not be corporations anymore. I believe from some of the questions I get, many people think that all corporations, like your business, your family business, are going to be dissolved and all of that. That's not what's going to happen. You're still going to need entities. You're still going to want to operate businesses as a separate entity other than yourself as a human being, because that's where you do your business, right? And you transact with other businesses that way. So that's not coming down. It's just governments, courts, and all of the representatives of the people, and I can't even stand to say that right now, are going to come down, and they're going to operate as true republics, as true common law jurisdictions where the main focus of sovereignty and common law is do no harm to others or others' property. That's it. And every other law stems from that one tenet under sovereignty and common law. So, but all of our corporations and our trusts and our bank accounts or whatever, they're not going away. All right? The banking systems themselves will be under fair and balanced and transparent regulations. They will not be allowed to gamble with our money, with derivatives and exposures. And there will be severe limits, in my opinion, put on making money out of nothing by just, usury, which is interest and all of these types of things on loans and whatnot. So I think we're all going to be okay in terms of trusts and asset protection and all of that. It's just the governing bodies above that are going to shift back to common law, which means it's for the people, by the people, and of the people, period. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And do we need to worry because we have to exchange with the Big Four? Do we have to worry about the bail-ins? I'm not really sure if I understand the bail-ins exactly, but do we need to worry about that?
I say trust but verify. Personally, myself, I'm not worried about that. The reason I'm not worried about that is because part of the GCR, which is Basel III regulation and that type of thing, is going to severely curtail these derivatives, which could fail a bank. A bank can go under if they're too heavy on derivatives, which are like casino gambling, and they lose. Right? And then when they lose, the bail-in comes from if a bank goes insolvent under certain rules today, like I think it's not the Volcker rules, but I can't remember the Dodd-Frank, that type of thing. Depositors, people who have deposits with banks, are considered shareholders in the bank. And because they're shareholders and a bank is a corporation, if the bank fails, they can go after the shareholders to help shore up the bank, right? And that's the nature of the bail-in, meaning they can take your money and use it to keep the bank from going under, right? So I think that when the GCR happens and by the time we're exchanging, those rules and that ability will be gone, but trust but verify. So what I'm doing, and I'm not a financial advisor, neither is Deb or anything like that. We're not professionals. I'm telling you what I'm doing. I'm going to put whatever assets and funds I have in the United States, for instance. You can go online and you can find resources, public resources out there that give you a detailed list of all the banks that have derivatives exposures. And I found that, and I posted that link up on our site, New Earth Community site. And you can go there and you can find the banks that have no derivatives exposure whatsoever. And I'm going to be putting my what assets funds I have in a bank. I'll be using banks that have no derivative disclosure, type of thing. So I may have to exchange with a big top 5 bank, but I will be if they make me a good deal, I may keep some of my funds there with their wealth managers just because they're offering me certain perks and things like that, but I'm certainly not going to keep a vast amount of my proceeds in a derivative-exposed bank. But I'm also going to look around after the GCR and see what the rules are now under Basel III and all that with the derivatives. And if it's fairly safe, and I believe it will be, I'm not going to be so concerned about that. But I'm certainly going to be aware, and I'm going to take appropriate measures based on what's happening after we exchange.
Okay, and the other thing in regards to that, two things. One is that it's important, what Sean is saying is it's very important to be the smart bunny going down the rabbit hole. We are in a transition time, right? Everything is shifting. So it's really important, and we will be. That's why we are also saying we're in this together. This is also why we started this call, this show, and also why we started the community, because it is time for us to take a stand, stick together, and have a checks and balance. And basically, if there is foul play going on, we definitely want to be able to communicate that to people who want to know about that as well, right? Mm-hmm. So this is just to remember that we are in a transition time. Not to be fearful about it, just be smart.
Okay. And I did find a zero derivative bank locally. It's a small bank, but I did find one.
Perfect.
Yep, there you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you. And I'd love to join the when you reopen, if there's a possibility.
Well, here's what we're telling people to do. Go on wakingupwithdeb.com and go to the community and go ahead and log in, sign up. What happens is you'll be kept in the queue, and as we go through the clearing out process that we're doing right now, because we're also going to be putting out an agreement. It's an integrity and confidentiality agreement that people are to agree to. And once you're in the queue, then once we open up the membership again, we're going to go bang, 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 bang. So you're already in there.
I'm on your email. Is that what you're talking about?
Nope. You go over to the website, wakingupwithdeb.com. You click on the community button in the navigation, and when you click through to the sign-up page, go ahead and put your information in, answer the 3 questions that are there, and then you'll be kept in the queue of the membership approval. And as soon as we get through the process that we're in right now, then we'll go ahead and start approving the people that are sitting in there.
The next round. Yep.
Thank you so
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we have just a couple minutes left, and definitely we're hard out at 2 hours, so we're really approaching that right now, Sean.
Yep.
I don't know if we should. I'm going to say if we take another caller, it's going to literally have to be like 1.5 to 2 minutes, or we should just close out now. It's your call.
Why don't we take one more, and we'll see where that goes. And but yep, we got a hard stop. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, and I recognize this as somebody probably in Australia. 04, you are now on the call. 041.
Hi, good day, Deb. Sean, it's Adam here over in Western Australia. How you going?
Hi,
hello.
Adam.
How are you? I was trying to get on last week, but I got on this week. Just a quick one. In Australia, the RV, I hear most of it's all around, it seems to be centred around America. Is there anything or any news from the Australian front as to how the RV would play out?
Okay, I'm just going to say, based on, Scott and I, based on what we are experiencing in Australia, I would say right now there is nothing solidified in Australia that I could impart to you at this time.
Yeah, well, I thought that might have been the case. So I just thought I'd check.
Yeah, I've heard that of course Australia and several other countries, when the time comes, there will be exchange opportunities that are offered via the banks there. But I agree, Deb. There's almost no information on anything outside of the United States, other than that these other countries, Canada, Australia, Germany, a few others, are going to be able to partake, but there's no information at all.
No.
I find so strange.
A year ago, we were actually getting information because they opened up General 64. We were doing a lot of energy work, and we actually opened up General 64 in Australia. And this was a year ago. It was November last year, Scott and I and a group of people. And we were being told we were going to be working with HSBC, but all of that right now has gone flat. And interestingly enough, we actually we dismantled that unified field we were working with, and since then, we are not aware of anything.
Okay. No worries, mate. I'll keep my ears out then.
And usual. We'll keep you posted, Adam. We'll definitely keep you posted.
Yeah, for sure. Because this call is going to continue after. We'll take a little break, but if there's information coming out regarding other countries outside the U.S. and we hear from other people that they're able to exchange, we'll certainly do what we can to get that information out.
That sounds good. Thanks, Sean. Let's make it more global that way.
Lots of love to you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Sean. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so Sean, I also want to acknowledge IQB calls. They have been posting our calls since the beginning.
Yes, they have.
So we want to thank them so much because they have been very supportive. And so we're grateful for that. We're also grateful for all of you guys sharing the links to the shows, going on to YouTube, and even commenting. Our views are up pretty high with the replays of YouTube. We want to see them go even higher because this is so much about our unification and this whole divine contingency plan. So even if you guys go on and you're can just start commenting and getting dialogue going there, what it does is it actually really generates energy. And so that's another big piece of this too. And it's part of just getting the dialogue going and whatnot. So
Yeah, I want to thank everyone as well for making this show what it is, because honestly it's gotten much larger than I would have ever thought when we first started. And I know, Deb, you told me it would, but I'm Mr. 3D. But it's all the people through word of mouth and through telling their friends and family about the show. It's great. And remember, our key point of this show is to bridge where we are now to where we're going after the exchanges and the GCR. So we want to continue to spread and grow this call and our site, and because we're gonna be very active after the things settle down after the exchanges, and working with projects and many other things. So I just want to thank everyone for listening and for making our show great. Thank you.
And thank you for being a part of everything that we're doing. We are in this together, and it is with so much gratitude and love that we are here.
Yes, it is. Love to everybody. And that's a wrap for tonight for this show.
A wrap.
Show number 8 is in the can, and thanks everyone for listening. And let's hope we're not doing a call next Sunday, but if we do, we're going to keep things going strong like we are now.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, lots of love, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Stories become closer. Closer is where we belong. Is anybody listening? Does anybody hear what I say? Is my body dreaming? Are we going the same way? I believe we can turn this world around. I believe we can mend what ties we break. I believe we can turn this world with open minds and willing hearts, saying I will reach for the all inside of me. Now.
To get access to spendable funds is because I believe that the Iranian sanction issue was a component of this. And why do I say that? Because we all know from past reports, and we've talked about this, that the architects of the plan, of the global financial reset and the global currency reset, the master architects who put this together have been way cautious with making sure everything is completely legal, everything is transparent in terms of how they're executing this, and the process and the due process and the legality of international law and treaty in making this switch over of the currencies and the changing within the banking regulatory commissions and those types of steps. So if I believe Iran, of course, is part of the GCR, I think it's a significant part, whether it's one of the first currencies to RV or not. I'm not going to speculate on that because nobody knows. But Iran is a significant currency. It is, as of right now, it still is the weakest currency on the planet. It's like 32,000 to 1, I believe, right? Give or take. And to $1, 32,000 real to $1. If Iran is a key part of the RV of currencies, obviously you can't execute a fundable GCR, an exchange process, while that country, key country, was still under legal, lawful sanctions under the United Nations security and other nations as well. But now that that's gone, I believe we could be free to see the final step of this funding be released, including the TRN/USN, the new gold-backed U.S. dollar. I think Iran was probably a key part of that. I could be wrong, but I'm just connecting those dots and putting that out there because it's amazing how much stuff lit up across the information, dinar land type of information circuits regarding things like the fundings and certain group activities and the bond activities almost within hours of Iran being released from its sanctions out of Vienna yesterday, right? So,
it's kind of been like a bing, 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 bing with the different things that are happening right now.
Yep, and the dollar is amazingly strong right now. I believe the dollar has been pumped up to its unbelievably high level. If you look at the U.S. dollar index, it's still sitting at 98 or 99. I didn't look at it today, but which is in record territory. Why would the U.S. dollar be so strong if stock markets are tanking and this type of thing? I believe the U.S. dollar has been raised in value under the fiat system right now so that when artificially, well, that's what you can do in the fiat system. I would say just about everything is artificial in the fiat system, right? But I believe a key part of the dollar being so strong right now because actually no one really understands why. The talking heads can't figure out why the dollar is so strong. They have their theories, but no one's willing to back that up, right? It's just a theory. I believe it's set that strong so that when the gold-backed dollar is unveiled or injected into the banking and financial system, obviously the fiat dollar is going to evaporate and start to collapse, but it's going to be caught like a net by the gold-backed dollar, the USN, if you want to call it that. And I believe that the dollar has been put up that high so that when it does come down 5 or 8%, it's basically going to put the dollar on par with where it was against other major global currencies about a year ago. So if today's their atomic development. So Iran is now out, and of course speculation is rampant as to what's going to happen to the Iranian rial. I would expect that it's going to be reinstated if it not already has been as part of the sanctions relief. But yes, we'll be able to verify that pretty quickly over the next day or two. And
can we just acknowledge, Sean, everything that you're sharing right now is huge. I just wanted to present how significant these milestones are, and including this whole situation with Iran sanctions being lifted, and so it's
the specific activity between China and the United States. The stock market's going down is connected with China. The treasuries being dumped are record amounts are connected with China. The volatility between the offshore Chinese yuan and the U.S. dollar is connected to China, right? So does it take too much to connect those dots, right?
Right.
So these are huge. I agree. Yep.
And they're really really significant milestones in what many of us have been watching for years now. Waiting, watching, being on a roller coaster emotionally, financially, etc. And also the other aspect of this is that presencing the significance of all of these shifts and how much all of this is part of the transition that is a necessary component to this entire global currency reset to take place.
Yep. I would agree with that. So there's also another key fact that, as I reported last Sunday, here we are 7 days later, and I can still say that almost. Last week I said absolutely I had no knowledge of any group or individuals on or platforms either on the bond or currency side of this GCR have been funded in spendable money. There have been people that have exchanged or groups that have exchanged, but they have not been exchanged for spendable money. They've been exchanged for credits or receipts or deposits, but that's not spendable, right? So this week, I believe that there's been significant movement, particularly on the bond side, and I'm not giving up any secrets. I believe that was mentioned on the Landa call. It was mentioned in several ZAP calls. It was mentioned even on some other popular GCR conference calls over this week that there has been significant activity in the bond area. And we know the bonds are connected to the humanitarian project, and they are joined at the hip with the currency exchanges at the mid-level and the broader lower level, which would be G64 and that type of stuff.
Right.
So there is significant movement. I'm not going to say that I know for sure that there's been spendable funds exchanged. So I'm going to err on the side of cautiousness or caution, and say that likely they haven't been exchanged for spendable, but clearly some activity is going on the bond side, and now clearly there is some activity surfacing over today, last night, within the currency side of things. So I'm even going to speculate, and this is my opinion in connecting dots, I'm going to speculate that we're going to learn pretty soon that the reason no group or platform has been able, the dollar rate fell 5 to 8% from 98, the index down, you will see that the dollar is going to be where it was about a year ago, right? Maybe a little bit longer than that, but no big deal because we were there a year ago. And did anything really change when we went from 92 or 88 on the dollar index up to 98, 99? No, it just means people traveling abroad with dollars can buy more stuff, right? Or, it's cheaper to travel outside of the U.S. So I think that's been done to soften the blow, right?
Right. Or like me, when I transfer my, Scott and I, Aussie dollars to U.S. dollars, it's horrible.
Yep. Oh, support, all of you up in Canada, I know you're hurting with the Canadian dollar versus the U.S. dollar. It's at $1.45 Canadian, I believe, to $1 U.S. dollar. I mean, that's just incredible. And I was even reading reports that the cost of goods in Canada, because a lot of it comes from the U.S. and Europe and Asia, I mean, is just skyrocketing, right? I mean, because of the weakness, the strength of the dollar, actually. So that's the case everywhere. So I think we're going to see a cushioned, a soft crash in the market, which we're right in. It's happening right now. It's continuing to happen for this past week. And when the dollar, the fiat U.S. dollar, transitions to the gold-backed dollar, which will make it on, more fair and even against other currencies. Well, it makes all currencies fair and even because, trust me, people, the U.S. are not the only country that manipulates their currency to gain an advantage in international markets. Every country does that, right? So all of this will happen, and I don't believe anyone that's espousing this dollar crash where you're going to wake up one day and your dollar is worth almost nothing. I can't even begin to wrap my head around how that's even something worth its weight in words, right? Because if the U.S. collapses, everything collapses, right? So we're not the bad guys, all right? So
well, the other thing too, Sean, is that if we can also now get into the energetics of this and with how this is part of the, let's say, the spiritual transition, the evolution aspect of what's going on here, is that it's really creating it's really giving people an opportunity to pause and take a look at everything that is going on, especially with the markets, and even people that aren't aware of the global currency reset, right?
Correct.
And here's one of the things that I was told by my guides some time ago is that this whole situation, okay, so if we just think about the magnitude of what we're in the know of, and I just also want to say and remind you guys that are listening to this that you are at a very high level of in-the-know people on the planet. You're like the new 1%ers. And because you have been tracking GCR, or if you are aware of what's going on now at this time, consider yourself at a very high level of information and value of understanding of what's going on the planet. And, you know, one of the things that Sean and I were talking about a little bit earlier today is that there seems to be a lot of fear coming up with people because things are being shaken up. And the thing that we want to definitely Hello and welcome to the show, the GCR, Let's Talk GCR and Great Shift with Deborah Peach and Sean Michael. And today we have January 17th, 2016 in the States and January 18th in the other hemisphere, which I seem to be going back and forth to and fro. So we have an awesome show and call today. There's a lot happening on the planet, in the world. And so before we get started, we just want to get the housekeeping up front here. This is being recorded. You know, we're going to open up the Q&A queue, question and answer queue. And when you come on and do a call, when you come on and do a question or whatnot, we just ask that you don't share your last name, just for your own privacy, and that, of course, this is going to go out and be heard by a lot of people. We're actually very excited about that because we're watching the views on YouTube, and they keep increasing. So we know we're at least on the right path and track for this at this point. The other thing, too, is also be aware that we don't know who's on the other end of the call. Well, this is live, and so we're not in a big studio and don't have like a call screener. And so we ask for you to be very conscientious of how you present your question or your share. Understand that we also are in a time frame. We are going to do a 2-hour hard out on this show today, and that we just ask for you to be really conscientious about how you present yourself and be respectful of the time. And that we want to try to get through as many people in the queue as possible. So we've got a lot to talk about. Sean, hi. Oh,
hello.
There you go. There you are.
Yeah, I just get myself off mute. Takes me a sec. All right. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, you want to get started and talk about some of the things that are unfolding here moment by moment. It's been a very exciting couple of days and weeks.
All right. Well, we've seen unprecedented activity over this past week since our last Sunday's call, particularly for those paying attention to global markets, global stock markets. We are seeing a relatively unprecedented sell-off within the markets, basically meaning they're going down. The U.S. market is down well over 10% now just for the last 10 trading days. That does not appear to be something that's going to slow down. You might have a little uptick on one day, but then the next day you're down 400, 500 points again. Not only the U.S. markets, but also the global markets from all across Europe. Every major market in Europe and in Asia as well are in the same downturn. And I believe that one thing all of the talking heads on TV and in the press, the financial press, are agreeing on is this is specifically to do with China, what they're doing. So what are China doing? So let's take several steps into consideration. One, what I call the soft crash that's unfolding before us right now on global stock markets, equities, right? We see unprecedented drops in the price of oil. It seems like every day goes by, it's down another 3 to 5%. We know oil, as of Friday, closed below $30 a barrel. What could be driving this? We've seen the information that trade between Europe and the United States, as well as Asia and the United States, is at an unprecedented low. That means a historic, never before happened low. And That's done by looking up what's called the Dry Baltic Index, and that's a measure of trade goods between countries. And that is at a low that it has never seen since this index began tracking sovereign trade, international trade between countries and hemispheres and regions and things of that nature. We also see unprecedented volatility between the U.S. dollar and the Chinese external renminbi. Now, what does that mean? There's a CNY renminbi and a CNH. CNY is the internal China currency that they use, within the borders of China, and the CNH is the Chinese yuan or the Chinese renminbi that is used for external trade and commerce between, outside of China. And it also is what's used with their foreign reserve holdings, their FX reserves. That saw spikes going up and down over the last 5 trading days. So something is definitely up between the U.S. dollar and the rate between the dollar and the external Chinese yuan. What could that be? And then we see, as of now, the world's record as of Friday, the total number of foreign central banks selling or dumping U.S. treasuries. So in the first 2 weeks of 2016, the U.S. Treasury had to absorb $47 billion worth of treasuries from foreign central banks, basically selling them back to the United States. And when you read further and research a little bit deeper, although the information isn't completely visible at this time, I think most of the researchers that are following the Treasury sales around the world are agreeing that China is likely behind the bulk of this record $47 billion in the first 2 weeks of treasuries. That means they're selling back, they're calling in the loans to the United States, right? So how do we add all of those together? We've got a record drop in stock markets in the first 2 weeks of 2016, never before happened. So I call that a soft crash. All right, we've got the oil at unprecedented lows. We've got the treasuries being dumped at a record rate never seen before. And we've got this mysterious volatility between the offshore Chinese yuan and the U.S. dollar. All right, so that's fact. Those are all facts. If they seemingly could be separate items, if one is just looking, they could be anecdotal. If one's just reading headlines. But all of us here who are involved in the global currency reset and the greater global financial reset should take note that these items are probably linked, and I would say feel free to connect those 4 dots as meaning something significant in what we are all here for. Finally, we had what unprecedented thing happened over this weekend. Iran has now been fully relieved of all sanctions, right, as being deemed compliant with the Nuclear Energy Agency's requirements in their reporting on their nuclear development activities.